tonight, the first thing I want to talk about is some positive things. I believe that we live in the greatest country in the world.
Yeah.
By far.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've traveled around the world, and we're the least racist country, by far. If anybody tells you different, they're lying to you, especially the mainstream media. We're the most generous country, by far.
Right.
And the people in this room, Republicans, conservatives, are by far the most generous people in the United States.
Right.
We should be living in paradise on earth, or the closest thing to it, heaven on earth. And here's why I say that. Has anybody read the book Homo Deus, by chance? Okay. So the book is about living forever and the tech oligarchs on the West Coast investing in technologies to do that, right? Downloading what's in your brain to memory cards and things like that. And the book is about, do you need God if that happens? What happens to your relationship with God? And that's not what I want to talk about in the book. In the introduction to the book, the author talks about three topics, or three things. One, that we produce more food than can be eaten on Earth, so nobody should be starving. We've absolutely nailed disease and things like that, plagues, except when a virus escapes from a lab in Wuhan, China. And the other thing is, very, very few people in the world, less than 1% of the world's population dies in conflict anymore. That number used to be 20 to 25%. Wars, feudal lords, fighting with each other. We have gotten less and less violent over time, except in Columbus, Ohio, where the murder rate is now, record level, right? It's crazy. So we should be living in heaven on earth. And I would contend the reason we're not is because corruption in governments. And I've done a lot of study on it. There's a great author, Sarah Chase. She's not of our political ilk, but she's written two great books, one on international corruption and one on U.S. corruption. And I would contend that it is the biggest problem that we've got in the United States with the world. And the latest, there was a recent survey of Ohio and Michigan voters. And the number one issue for those voters across all political lines was corruption in government. Think about that. More than taxes, more than health care, corruption in government. So I'll get back to that, but that's the positive thing. I think we know what the problem is, and we can have a vision that this could be a fabulous planet, not just a fabulous country. Now, what do we do to get there in terms of solving that problem? So let me tell you why I'm running, because I want to go to DC to help fix that problem. I come from a lower middle class family. Grandfathers, both coal miners in northeastern Pennsylvania. My parents had outhouses when they were kids. I made it to Ohio State. I got accepted at 2 Ivy League schools. Didn't go because I couldn't afford it. This was before the government was giving out loans like candy. This was 75, 76 when I graduated from high school. Those of you that are around my age know that it was hard to qualify for loans back then. Your parents had to hawk their house or whatever, and my parents, But I managed to get through school with no debt, no loans, because I worked 3 jobs during the summer, like many of you, and I worked at school, like many of you, and my parents helped me out, like many of you. And that was meaningful. That was, you accomplished something, and I felt good about it. But I graduated from Ohio State. I'm a Buckeye with an electrical engineering degree. Went to work for companies like IBM and EDS, so I'm a technology guy, and started my own company in 1996. Sold it at the end of 2019. got to the point where it's about $100 million in revenue, 800 employees, but we just did a count last week because I was challenged on this by Bernie Moreno. We employed somewhere between 2,100 and 3,000 Ohioans. Bernie was saying that all my business was on the East Coast, and that was absolutely incorrect. I have no idea where he got that impression. He just couldn't call me. He's got my number. We text each other all the time. It's kind of funny, but he didn't. So anyway, I created jobs. I sold my company, most of it, 90% of it, at the end of 2019. And I was angry with the way the country was going, but it was when I had the money in my account from selling the business that I thought, gee, I've lived the American dream. And that was like the first time I thought of that. Because in the United States, we don't walk around saying, I'm gonna go live the American dream today. Now, some immigrants do. They say it every day. You know, we just take it for granted. You cannot start a business like I did with $1,000 in your unfinished basement and grow it to $100 million in revenue in a little over 20 years in any other country in the world. You can't do it in Canada, you can't do it in the UK, you can't do it in Australia. If anybody tells you you can, you can. I lived in Canada for 4 years. The amount of paperwork and administration, bureaucracy up there just chokes you. And those are relatively easy places to start businesses compared to others, where you have to have the right last name, you've got to have the right connections, or you've got to pay off the right people. So I'm thinking, wow, I lived the American dream. And then I looked at my then 17-month-old grandson, and I thought, he will not have the opportunity to live the American dream like I did if we keep going in the same direction. And then I saw Rob Portman doing an interview on TV, and I thought, that guy hasn't done a single thing we sent him to Washington to do. Now that he's quitting, he's not retiring, he's quitting because he knows he can't get reelected. And he's showing us who he is.
Let's wrap it up, Mark.
Yeah. So, anyway, sorry.
It's all right.
So that's why I decided to run. I'm the only candidate talking intensely about policy. I've been doing it for 2 years. I've got a 21-point policy guide. You should have copies of it. I'm glad to talk to anybody about it. You should also have business cards, or you will have business cards of mine. That's my direct cell number. I'll be glad to talk to you about this. I am the only fighter in the race. I am fighting Ohio Republican Party corruption, primary endorsements by the party, the accounting cover-up that Laura's involved with, and state central committee members endorsing themselves. The other candidates in my race got in after Rob Portman quit. I registered to primary him, and they won't talk about those other issues because they're either afraid or they want to go along to get along. I am not a go along to get along kind of guy. We've got a lot of work to do to fix this country, to fix this state, and to fix our local governments. I love what I've heard today. I love the fact that Bernie has retired and now he's going to serve even more. This is all good stuff. We've got to be fighting the left and swamp rhino Republicans from the bottom up, from the top down, and from the sides in. And that's what I want to go do in DC. Thank you.